This is a line of conferences which I'm starting today about how to start a center for Krishna consciousness in this world. This is a special guide line, a series of conferences which are going to deal with all the different aspects of a new Krishna conscious center. We are going to reflect our experience, which we have had in South America over the last 40 years and in many other countries as well. Specifically, we're going to enter into the psychology of the leadership, the psychology of giving responsibility to new devotees, the final goal of establishing a center for Krishna consciousness, and the different steps you have to take to be successful along the road. It will be lengthy. That's why we have divided it into many chapters. And you can make them as references. So therefore, we will also keep them systematic by our guideline. The number one consideration of establishing a Krishna conscious center is sharing Krishna conscious with other people. It's not a business, it is a service to our divine parampara, a service to the divine lineage, starting with Narada Muni. Well, actually not starting with Krishna himself, but Narada Muni is considered a traveling preacher, goes everywhere and encourages people to start centers for Krishna consciousness. And it goes all the way down to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his Prapanashram, which were centers of shelter. Then, after him, the Gaudiya Math. Then the Gaudiya Math divided into many different branches, which are very famous. First, Bhagavasa Gaudiya Math and Chaitanya Math. Then later, the Temple of Bhakti Hridaya Bon Maharaj, the Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mission, Bhakti Daita Madhava Maharaj, the Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. Then Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, the Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mission, then Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, the Gopinath Gaudiya Math, and so on. The list goes on and on and on. And then shows up another mission, unexpectedly surprising. And that was the Gaudiya Math branch called ISKCON. And since ISKCON really started outside of India, it took some time before in India they fully recognized that another branch of the Gaudiya Math had appeared. As a matter of fact, even many members of ISKCON still don't understand that they are branches of the Gaudiya Math, but they are 100%. And every branch of the Gaudiya Math is a branch of the Chaitanya tree, is a branch of the Guru Parampara, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, is a branch of the Char Sampradaya, is a branch of Acharya Mam Vijaniyam, where Krishna says, I am the Acharya, responsible for all. So get a global understanding. When you start a center for Krishna consciousness, you are responsible for what happens there. You may take the initiative. You may be held responsible by others, but you are representing Vaishnavism on the whole. You're representing all the truths taught in the Vedas, compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, and the different commentaries given by Jiva Goswami, by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, by Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Deva Goswami Maharaj, by Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Goswami Maharaj, and. There's so many commentaries on the Gita, for example, or the Bhagavatam. And all these commentaries, they all teach the one and the same essence, Sharanagati, how to practice surrender to Krishna, how to give up all selfish motivations and to do something to please Radha, Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who expands as Nityananda, Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas, Adi, Gaura Bhaktavinda, who expands to spread the holy name around. So this is very, very important to understand. When you start at Center for Krishna Consciousness, you have to have a global, broad understanding and vision in order to receive all the guests. Of course, the majority of guests and friends you are going to receive have no idea about anything about what I just said. They don't know Gaudiya Math, they don't know ISKCON, they don't know anything. They just know the kartals which they heard you play in the street, or the book they got from you, or the plate of prasadam which was given to them, and the invitation to come to have a spiritual vision and dimension on life. So they come and they will be focused on who you are and what you give and what you transmit. And that's for them their food for spiritual advancement. So you cannot imagine anything in this world without your dedication to their welfare. For them, doesn't matter how many great pure devotees lived before you, if you don't give your love and attention to them, they will have no chance, no connection with this great and highest dimension of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, for those who want to be preachers and establish centers for Krishna consciousness, they have to learn to be broad-minded. They have to learn to be loving. They have to learn to be committed. They have to learn to be dedicated and examples in what they speak and what they teach. Very same thing. We should help people to come to Krishna. It is something which takes place when we enter into our connection with our spiritual master. Initiation is practically the entry into the school of initiation into the mantra. As you are getting initiated into the Harinam, Gayatri mantra, and all the other processes of Bhakti Yoga, at the same time you are committed to some or other provide that information and that connection to others, either by giving it yourself to others or by leading people to somewhere and to someone where they can be connected to this wonderful truth. A person in need of oxygen needs oxygen. He doesn't need anything else, not even milk. He needs oxygen. So what the souls need in this world is Krishna consciousness. That's what everybody needs. That's what you have when you repeat what your gurus have told you. Because your gurus, they trained you up in Krishna consciousness. And they requested you to pass on what is Krishna consciousness. And your center you're trying to establish is exactly for that sacred purpose, to pass on, inspire, and train people in Krishna consciousness for the benefit of their soul, for the eternal upliftment of each and every one who they come in contact with if that is allowed by Sri Mata Radharani. You see, we pray, "Oh my Lord, please let me be an instrument of your love." His love is Radha. So let me be an instrument of Radha's love for Krishna, of Radha's compassion with all the conditioned souls. Gauranga Nityananda, Gadadha, all these greatly compassionate souls, they have come into this world to give. To give, to give, to give. And if you open a center for Krishna consciousness, is to give. You can give, 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 give. And yes, obviously there will be return, but the return is not for you, the return is for Krishna. You give what Krishna gave to you, and the return, the appreciation, the donations, everything which comes from that, it has to go to the center of Krishna's pleasure again. You cannot kind of make a division, okay, no, one is for God and one is for me. This type of mentality is not healthy. I can tell you a little joke about that. Well, there were a few priests they met once, and they were asking, well, how do we deal with the donations of the faithful? So first there was the Christian. I said, well, we draw a line on the ground, and we throw all the donations in the sky, and what falls on the right side is for God, and what falls on the left side, that's for us. Then the Muslim, he said, no, we have a better system. We draw a circle. And then again, we throw all the donations in the air, and what falls in the center is for God, and what falls outside of the circle, that is for his servitors, us. Then the Jewish rabbi said, we have a different system. We just take everything which has been donated, throw it in the air, and we say, God, take what you need, and what falls on the ground is for us, his servitors. So this little joke has been told to see how you deal with all the energy which comes when you preach. When you start a center for Krishna consciousness, you can be sure that there will be some donations in form of money, specie, or volunteer service. So many wonderful things, they will happen when you start preaching, when you establish a center for Krishna consciousness. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to be very transparent and clear about what you're going to do, and how the people are coming will not feel cheated, and they will feel, yes, this person is so transparent and so transcendental that everything we have seen coming into his hand ended up in some wonderful gift of devotional service for humanity. God's gift to the world increased. So how? By making temples, distributing prasadam, in preaching, distributing books, publishing, making festivals. There's no end to the ideas what people can do when they have enough funds and they manage them transparently. So here we come back to the point. People come to you to be connected with the truth. That is such a wonderful commitment. And you don't have the truth, but your guru has the truth. His guru has the truth. Krishna is the truth. Bhagavad Gita is the truth. You will not feel that you have the truth, and most likely you don't have the truth, meaning you don't have a full realization of your eternal relationship with God. You're not a self-realized soul to the maximum degree. Well, maybe you are, I don't know. But preaching is for everyone, even those who are not yet there, but they're also requested to establish Krishna conscious centers. There's different opinions on how to apply it, and who shall, and how much he can do, and so on. But we are here in the rudimentary. We are here explaining how to start a center for Krishna consciousness, and especially in the Western world. because last but not least, my experience is from the Western world. So how to start the Center for Krishna Consciousness in India? I wouldn't be the best one to explain that, because I haven't done it. I have seen the movement develop. I've seen ISKCON grow over the years into something absolutely incredible. I've seen great acharyas in India making small temples, big temples, whatever. I've seen a lot of it, but still, in order to open a temple of a Center for Krishna Consciousness in India, we would have to bring those who have had that experience and who can actually give us that divine inspiration. I can more speak about the Western world, because that's where we have to deal with a certain degree of atheism or Christian fanaticism or Muslim fanaticism or excessive Darwinism or whatever is there. Usually in most countries you got a kind of a half Jewish, half Christian, half this, half that, Muslims, Buddhists, a little bit of everything, a lot of atheists. I mean, every country has a different story. If you go to Myanmar, you see the most incredible Buddhist temple there, and that was a communist country for many years with dictatorship and everything, but the Buddhist life is alive there. If you go to Japan, you see that all the Hindu deities have turned into Japanese deities, but they are definitely coming from the Vedic culture. If you look in Vietnam, if you look in Cambodia, you see everywhere the influence of Vedic culture. Plus, in Russia, they had the Ruski Veda. In Bulgaria, they had the Veda Slovena. In many parts, and in the groups of the First Nation people around the world, almost all of them have a very clear understanding of reincarnation, an eternal soul, karma and as an action and reaction that you can learn. They have appreciation of the holy power of the earth and the sun, and. So you see there's many different things you are confronted with. It's different whether I preach to a fanatic Christian or I preach to somebody who's coming from loving Mother Earth and teaching others to take care of Mother Earth. This is a total different panorama. And when you preach in the Western world, you have to be prepared for many different topics, how to deal when people are fanatically vegan, how you accommodate that with the reality of our Vaishnavas in India, and there's many questions. You see, this series will be quite long because we will address all the issues. We want this to be the master class for opening a center of Krishna consciousness in the West. We want you to be able to take this information and go there and do it and come back successful. India has a great amount of highly powerful potential preaching. Prabhupada didn't have this. Prabhupada was alone, and he did it alone. But today we have qualified preachers from India and from other places in the world, and they can follow a certain guideline to be successful in establishing Krishna consciousness everywhere. Last not least, that is the desire of Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is the desire. That is what is the order we are supposed to fulfill. We should go and learn how to open centers for Krishna consciousness. They may later turn into farm community, into vegetarian restaurants of prasadam. They may turn into culture centers. They may turn into inbound yoga studios with a lot of preaching. They may turn into centers of casa, house of wisdom activities. They may turn into great promotions of vegetarianism. They may be great centers of book distribution, prasadam distribution, visiting holy places like Vrindavan, Mayapur, Puri, and other holy places. India is full of holy places. All these things I will touch upon and I will clarify. And of course, I fully admit that whatever you hear in this lecture series is my relative experience. And there'll be many, many more things to be discovered along the way. This is not a final thing. We will have to learn, to perfect, to polish every different approach to encourage and include other people in the Krishna conscious family. It is a family more than an institution. Sometimes we have to go by some institutional guidelines for practical protection of bookkeeping, transparencies, etc. But what is Krishna conscious is the family. I joined Srila Prabhupada. I was part of his mission. Even I had great leadership responsibility like regional secretary in many countries, and I never signed a paper. I never signed a paper that I'll this or that, I'll do this or that. No. I got the Bhakti Shastri certificate because I passed a little test, but otherwise, no signature. Everything with Prabhupada was love and trust, and it should remain love and trust, because only by love and trust, something will become real. If you try to institutionalize it, if you try to have regulations for everything, rules, you will find the essence, the heart will be lost. So therefore, I sustain the thesis that Krishna consciousness is essentially a family, and it utilized the institutional framework only to protect buildings, properties, and relationships to governments also, because governments, they can't relate to families so well. They prefer that there is a certain structure, there's somebody like you have a governing bodies and this type of thing. But in the end, Krishna consciousness is a family, and it will only spread in the spirit of the family. If you're going to start a Center for Krishna Consciousness, you are going to have a big family. And you should take people like they're your children. It says in the Veda, again, in the Vedas, again, a king should see all his citizens like his own children. That's what it says again and again. So what to speak about the members of your temple, your community? You'll have sons and you have daughters, you have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, you have a huge family, and that is the Krishna Conscious Center. If in a Krishna Conscious Center not everybody is welcome, then it is a very limited Krishna Conscious Center. And maybe there are some limited Krishna Conscious Center. That is a separate issue, a separate subject to consider. For example, how to establish people of a certain tribe who cannot associate with anybody else, but they want Krishna consciousness. So you give them some tribal facilities in their own region or in something, or you get people of a certain orientation of lifestyles and they don't want to be with everybody. Then you should try to provide for them also some facility so that they can practice Krishna consciousness. In other words, today, this lecture series is something I've been thinking of for a long time, and I'm making this as an offering to the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. The Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha is our spiritual master's divine vision for unity in diversity, working together, appreciating each other. And I also said it's also an offering to the United Nations of the Spirit, because actually our Krishna consciousness is a preaching which is for the whole world, even for those who are not yet completely identified with our Vedic philosophy, but they have much to give and much to take of us, and they are very friendly with us, and they belong to the to the greater family, the United Nations of the Spirit. But the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha, it specifically started by Srila Jiva Goswami in the order of Rupa Sanatan Mahaprabhu. And what is the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha? It is an association. Sabha means association. And Vishwa is the universe, and the Vaishnava Raj, or the king of the Vaishnavas, is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, God who has become a bhakta. Now, that may not be fully embraceable by others who are following Nimbarka, Sampradaya, or Ramanuja, or Madhvacharya. They may not fully embrace it, but at least they can accept the phenomena that it was Srila Jiva Goswami who called for union in diversity. It was him who provided the sandarbhas and the philosophy, and I think just like Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada created the revolution of taking Krishna consciousness all over the world, and has been benefiting many other sampradayas and missions of the same tree, we should be broad-minded and understand in a historical context that the World Vaishnava Association, or Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha, is actually for everyone who accepts that there's a personal God who can give mercy to you, and that you're an individual who can have a relationship with God. This is called Savisheshavada, or personalism. If somebody thinks, I don't think God exists, he doesn't know anybody, he cannot tell, he cannot respond, so it is only us and we become all one and then there's nothing afterwards, or whatever. Somebody who subscribes to that type of philosophy, yes, maybe he likes the United Nations of the Spirit, and he likes to take care of Mother Earth together with us and spread vegetarianism, but he cannot fully understand what is a Krishna conscious center, because a Krishna conscious center is a place of loving worship and gratefulness to the one and only origin of all individual consciousness, called Bhagavan, called Ishvara, called the friend of all, called the author of the Song of God, the Bhagavad Gita, etc. So this is basically introductory, what I said to you today, but at the same time, it is essential. So I will not extend it today because it will be a little bit too difficult to contain all these points. I recommend to you, those who take this course, who follow this lecture series, to take pen and paper and write down every item, every element. Please write it down and apply it to your deeper understanding and future handling of establishing a center for Krishna consciousness. If you have any questions to this, we will have a Facebook site where you can present those questions. It's not established yet. It's part of our offering to the Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha, so that we have many more centers of Krishna consciousness in the future, and that there will be many chances for people to hear and chant Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, a sense of all devotional activities, chanting and hearing. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Parasevanam Archanam Mandanam Dasyam. That is a very famous shloka, which we should always think about, the 9 types of devotional service. Sakyam Atmani Vedanam. Yes, we should love God with all our heart and establish Krishna conscious centers which are transparent and which will be the joy of you and everybody. Thank you very much. Get ready for the next class. We will publish it soon, and there will be more information about this. And I hope you really gain something. I don't care in what mission you are or where and how you establish a center for Krishna consciousness. I just care that you get all the blessings of all the previous acharyas, so that your preaching will be successful and the people will be truly benefited. Because if you are benefited, if the people come to you are benefited, I tell you, I'm very much benefited, because I felt this inspiration that I should share this experience with you. Thank you very much. Radhe Radhe. Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Yamuna Kunja ki jai, Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sabha. Class at 5 in Yamuna Kunja ki jai. Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol.